Hello and welcome to Barbed Wire Strategy. You are watching the Admiral's Workshop. So this portion of my barbed wire strategy, which is supposed to be all politics, but we're kind of laying off the politics just briefly so we can do some woodshop stuff. You're watching the 7th episode of a project that I've been doing for some time now, and it's the grand trophy for it's called the Order of the White Elephant, and it's for the Paris Chinese Communist Christmas that we're going to play this year on December the 31st. If you haven't watched the first 6 episodes, then you need to go back and watch those, because otherwise, if you just like being lost, then I invite you to go ahead and watch this one. But if you've watched the first 6 episodes, then you're ready to go with number 7. This is number 7, so you're in the right spot. Let me say a few words about the project, because I've recorded a lot of footage. In fact, I didn't think that this was going to go on for any more than 5 episodes, and I did a 6th recording just in case, and it turns out that I'm going to need a lot more of these. So I'm going to be doing these for some time, because I'm doing these. I try to do the whole thing under 15 minutes so that you can take it in bite sizes. And, if you're sitting on the toilet, or if you're sitting in bed or trying to go to sleep, and you can listen to me or watch me do my projects. I try to explain everything I'm doing, not just about how I'm building the trophy, but also I'm trying to explain good practices in the woodshop. And so a lot of it is very, very, very basic. So I feel like I'm talking to somebody who has no skills, has never had a wood shop, but would like to have one, or is entertaining the idea of having a wood shop. That's who it's geared towards. But it's not necessarily not geared towards people who have wood shops. I've talked to a lot of guys that have a wood shop, and they've been watching the show, and I'm very happy for that. And so if anything else, also, I don't expect you to build my trophy. This is not what this is about. This is about taking what I'm doing and maybe putting some of the things into your own design to bring that to fruition. So anyway, I just wanted to explain that. I'm not going to explain that every time, since it's just on this 7th episode of Barbed Wire Strategy on the Order of the White Elephant Trophy. So let's get on out to the shop, and let's get back to where we were, where we left off the last time. And I believe the last time we were mortising the what I had considered the pillar. And then I think we're going to be able to get into the turning part this time. So let's get on out there. I'll see you on the other end of this. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to drop this tinion into the hole, and I'm going to mark it. And I'm going to see there, I've got a mark, and I'm going to cut that on the bandsaw. I'm going to cut it, I'll probably cut it just outside here, so I have a little bit to hold on to when I'm putting it in, if I need to pull it out for whatever reason. All right, now that I cut these 3 tinions, I'm going to see, I can place them in there, and see, I've got them just there where they're barely hanging out, and I can pull them back in. And it's, as I say, it's a good idea to always leave a little bit hanging out, because if you cut them flush, number one, you might cut them, they might end up going lower than you want. Then you got a problem. But you also want to put them in just to fit them, and then be able to pull them out. And you always want to do your dry fit. Don't ever forget to do your dry fit. Don't get in a hurry. You know what? If you get in a hurry, if you're in so damn hurry that you get in there and you start putting stuff in and not fitting it right, and not do your dry fits and your measurements, take a deep breath, turn the lights out, go inside and watch TV or read a book or go to sleep and relax. You need to do your woodworking when you have all of your mind on what you're doing. So take your time and go very slow. Do all your dry fits first before you put glue in, to make sure everything fits right. It's good practice. Good practice. Now I'm going to cut this one right here in the center, And I just wanted to demonstrate this, otherwise I'd have done the time-lapse thing. But I'm going to use a pair of pliers to hold it, and this is kind of a safety feature. When you don't want your, it's not that dangerous necessarily, I don't think, my opinion, to have your fingers this close. I don't really care for having my fingers that close to the blade when it's running. And so, I mean, I'll have them say 1 inch or so, or maybe even 3/4 of an inch. But when you get this close, what you want to do is you want to make sure you maintain your line. You don't want to cut crooked. But there's always the opportunity, and this has happened to me throughout the decades that I've had a bandsaw, this blade will break. Now, when it breaks up inside the machine and gets wrapped up, which is a safety feature. But you never know when this thing might break and snap out and bite you. And I don't need to be bit. So what we're going to do, I'm going to turn it on just like that. And I'm going to use these pliers. You see how that was? Came out nice, exactly the way I wanted. This is when you're working with little bitty pieces. You want to make sure that you maintain your integrity while still keeping your fingers intact. The next part of our project on the Grand Trophy, what we have here, we've got this mortised. This is all dried, and the next thing I'll do here is I'll cut these parts and I'll turn this column. But right now, what I want to do is I want to look at the main part of that trophy. Now, this is the column, and the way this will sit is this little man will sit on top of the column just like that, and then later on, there'll be a walnut base, which I have not made yet. And I haven't started on that one. That'll be another show, or I guess it'll be part of this show. It'll just be a continuation. Anyway, we're going to set this aside just for now. And what I want to do is I wanted to point out that I'm going to cut this off on each end, and then I'm going to put this on the lathe, and we're going to turn this into a little man, just like we've done what we're going to do on all of them. So this is the little man, the little Academy Award kind of guy, and he sits up on top of the column. Anyway, we're gonna do that right now. I almost forgot. I shaved the sides off, and I was about to mount it, but I forgot. I've got to put tinions in this, and the only thing is I'm not going to put square tinions. Instead, I'm going to put round tinions because they look like buttons. They end up looking like buttons, and so I'm going to put them in the chest area. This is all of the rest of the trophies are male, including the Grand Trophy. The only female trophy is the one, and part of that reason is that the female trophy, it's too much trouble to do the breast. It takes a long time. So I've got these marked. I've already marked this one. I'm going to put my dowels. I'm going to put dowels in it this time. I'm going to mark it here, and I'm going to mark it here. And what I've done is this is going to be the feet. This is going to be the head. What I did is I measured the length of the head, or what it should be, and the length of the head should come to about here. The length of the shoulders should be somewhere around this line. And then the tapering part that includes the base should be below this line. So I just needed to keep my dowels away from this area and away from this area, because I don't want to, you don't want to put a dowel in the middle where it would be the neck, because it gets pretty thin there, it'd break on me then in turning. And then I don't necessarily want a big dot in the middle of its head, make it look like a cyclops, and it's not a cyclops. So, although it could be, that'd be kind of cool. Never thought about that. Anyway, not this time. We're going to put 3 buttons right here. Okay, I decided that I was going to go ahead and make my Cyclops. After thinking about it, I thought that was kind of cool. So we're going to do one here, one here, one here, and one here. And I'll do this one to show you how I'm doing it, and then I'll do the rest kind of fast forward.
basically we're just drilling a hole. So I'll do the rest of these and then I'll meet you back at the lathe. I went ahead and put in the dowels. We've got our Cyclops eye up here. Hopefully that'll end up being, I've kind of approximated where the eye would be. Hopefully it's not way up in his forehead. What I was gonna say here, I just had to say that when I was a kid, I had this little toy. I still have it, I think, in a box somewhere. And it's got little round pegs, and they used to give you a real hammer, you know, back in the 60s when they actually wanted to raise real citizens. It had a metal hammer. And anyway, and none of it was plastic. It was wood and metal, and it had a little hammer, just like a real hammer, only it was for kids, so it was smaller. I still have that too. And anyway, I had this thing, I don't know what it is. It looks like a little bed, and it has holes in it. It came with these colored pegs, all wood, and you used to hammer it in. You know, hammer. And I remember doing this as a 2-year-old or 3-year-old. I had, a lot of fun with it. And the reason I mention it is here I am, 108, and I still feel like I'm hammering on that little toy back in 1967, 66. And so you're putting the pegs in the round hole. Now, one of the reasons, as I mentioned before, I didn't do square mortises. Instead, I did these dowels, is I wanted to kind of, when I get the man turned, I want it to look like he's got buttons, and buttons are round, not square, even though the square pinions would look pretty cool. And then we're going to give him a little eye. I guess I could have given him a larger dowel for an eye, but I don't want to get too big because the head ends up being small enough as it is. Anyway, next stop is we'll turn this. Got to let the glue dry first, though. Okay, here I've gone ahead and mounted our main trophy, and we don't have to worry about cutting the ends of these dowels off because they're going to come off whenever I turn it. And then, but I wanted to make this mention, and I've put this in. I just simply put the tailstock in and the head in right here, and I punched the holes for this trophy. But I also meant to mention that I did this off camera, but I wanted to tell you about it. I sometimes this point here, right there, you see right there, and it's kind of out of focus, is very sharp, and it can cause the wood to split. Now, so can this one here, but I didn't do it on this end. But what I do is I pre-drill. I drill about what have I got here? 5/32. I drill a 5/32 bit into this right here, into the wood, and then that way it easily goes in there, because mainly what's going to hold it are these other prongs going around, these 4 different prongs. Well, I want to mention that it's significant because if you put it in and you force these 2 prongs in on each side, kind of like eating corn on the cob, these will, if there's a split in the wood, like there was on the Yellow Heart trophy, the female trophy, then that split will become predominant, and then you could lose the piece and then have to glue it back and start over again. So anyway, I wanted to mention that as a pointer. Pre-drill the end of this.
Well, that's our 15 minutes for tonight, and you're going to have to pick us up next time on episode 8. Now, make sure, again, if you haven't seen the first 6 episodes, go back and watch them. I assume that if you've made it to the end of this, that you did watch the first episodes, or you're very lost, one of the two. But anyway, I'll see you the next time on Barbed Wire Strategy when we get to the 8th chapter of this fantastic trophy of the Order of the White Elephant. I am the Admiral, and so We'll see you next time on Barbed Wire Strategy. Good night.